And this week, I've been thinking about performance. Last weekend, the White House, or Donald Trump, hosted a UFC event. Today, the Obama Presidential Library opened its doors. And at a glance, these might seem like events that are completely unrelated. Now, I did not watch the UFC event. I do enjoy watching UFC, but I did not watch this one in particular. But I have seen plenty of clips that have been floating around on the internet. And here are my thoughts. Both were loud, both featured music, celebrities, and very carefully crafted experiences. Both were elaborate productions, and both were spectacles, I would say. When we see these two stories side by side, I have a very different reaction about what I'm seeing. And I'm realizing that both are examples of the very same thing, even though they are vastly different. They're all on stages. And I'm starting to wonder if modern politics is increasingly about the stage. I think we're living through a period where politics is becoming inseparable from performance. Not just because politicians have suddenly changed, but maybe rather because the environment has changed. Today, the modern politicians don't just compete against other politicians, they're also competing for ratings against Netflix, against TikTok and podcasts and sports and influencers and an endless stream of content that is fighting for our attention. But here's my concern. When the attention becomes valuable currency, as it is in today's society, institutions adapt themselves to whatever is capturing attention, and that includes the government. It shows up in congressional hearings, and I have seen just about every hearing since the first Donald Trump administration, and in real time, I will add. I've seen cabinet officials refuse to answer governing questions, but instead, they're performing for their supporters and for the cameras, and of course, most recently for Donald Trump. Their offices have become a spectacle of insults, of yelling, of embarrassing accusations that are more fitted for an episode of The Real Housewives. It's embarrassing. And last weekend, the White House hosted an event. But it wasn't just simply an event, it was also a grand spectacle, but it was also political communication. And today, when I was watching Barack Obama's presidential library opening its doors in the south side of Chicago, on my iPad, I was not there, I wasn't simply just observing the opening of a building. It was also quite theatrical. It was filled with celebrities, and in short, it was also political communication. So both of these events are telling stories, and both, I think, are shaping narratives. Both are carefully designing experiences that are intended to influence how people think about their respective parties and maybe as well about political leadership. So for now, I'm just going to set aside the messaging of each. The question I'm really thinking about today and that I'm wrestling with is, has governance become an act of branding? Because increasingly, I'm seeing government officials and politicians behaving more like media personalities. I see government announcements that are designed for social media. I've seen way too many congressional hearings that look more like auditions for reality TV than serious deliberations about issues that really do need solutions. For example, why hasn't the DOJ given us a clear understanding of why former federal prosecutor Alex Acosta gave Epstein such a sweetheart deal? Why hasn't he been pressured to explain how he concluded that the Epstein case was a crapshoot, those are his words, of a prosecution? Why haven't all the victims of last year's storms in North and South Carolina been assisted by FEMA? What I see instead is politicians being more focused on building their personal brands, personal personalities for social media that would have been unimaginable 20 years ago. Is that simply how leadership works in the digital age? Is that okay? I am worried about what's getting lost or left behind. Governing used to require compromise, and it involved complexity. And that required time. But for some reason now we're living in an age of performance because it's fast and that demands simplicity. And these are not the same skill set, yet increasingly we seem to reward leaders for their ability to perform rather than their ability to govern. And here is the uncomfortable part about all of this, that the politicians aren't the only ones responsible. I think we are as well. We click, we share, we reward the outrage with our clicks, we consume the conflict, we remember the moments, and we forget outcomes. We claim to want substance, but our attention often follows the spectacle and the showmanship. And the result is now a system where everyone responds to the incentive in front of them. Politicians are performing because performance works, and media amplifies because performance sells, and algorithms promote it because performance engages, and citizens consume it because performance is much easier than complexity. So that's what I mean about the performance state, which is the title of this debrief. It's not a conspiracy and it's not a secret plan, but it is a system of incentives that is gradually positioning and pushing politics away from policies that should be solving problems and bringing forth solutions that should benefit people, and instead it's rewarding entertainment. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just modern communication, but I can't shake the feeling that we've crossed the line somewhere and that politics have become something we watch instead of something we think about and, more importantly, participate in. I feel that citizenship is slowly being replaced by spectacles and by spectatorship. And if that is true, then the question isn't whether politicians are performing. The question is whether we've become such a good audience that we've stopped noticing and stopped thinking and stopped asking questions. Let me know what you think.